Hi cuties! You're about to get a lot of videos with this hair. Just FYI, this is what happens when you bulk film with a fancy video happening. You'll see it later. It's coming, but this one's coming up first, so you get me actually attempting to do my hair. Congratulations. A feat that rarely occurs. We're here to talk about the books that I read in January, and I'm going to try to do this a little bit different without spending too much time talking about all the individual books, because we all know that I can't shut up about books. Thank you. I love that I change the melody every single time we do one of these. But anyway, let's quickly wrap up the month for you. I did read 15 books this month. Without trying, okay? I had a month where I took over doing 4 a.m. shifts again at my work, which meant audiobooks aplenty. Doing the 8-book TBR really helped in actually completing said TBR, which I completed! Woo! Along with a lot of extra books as well. Of my 2021 books that I told you guys about in the beginning of the year, or did I do it in December? I don't know. I read 8 of the 2021 books. I already have a lot colored in. I don't know if you guys can see of my 2021 books. I have a lot of books already colored in. So hell yeah. I didn't punish myself by making me go through entire series in one go. I'm spacing that out a bit. And, you know, if we come around to the sequel, we come around to the sequel. I've kind of sorted them into like the best books that I read this month, the ones that were really, really, really good but not quite the best, and then some that I'm like, they were very good and I'm still intrigued to go on with the series if that is them, and I'm still happy to keep because I have really good moments in them. And then there are 2 that were really disappointing to me and probably will be unhauled, but it's very sad to know that I had hyped, and these are both 2021 reads that I really, really was hyping and hoping for the best, and they just disappointed me. If we want to get a little nerdy, let's talk about them steps. I read 5,588 pages in total and 106.5 hours listened to on audiobook. I read 7 fantasy, 4 contemporary, 2 sci-fi, 1 historical fiction, and 1 mystery. Technically, one of the contemporaries could be considered historical fiction as well, because it's set in the 80s, but it's more contemporary themed than a historical fiction themed. You'll get what I mean. So let's start from the bottom and work our way up. So the 2 books that were disappointing to me were Grave Maidens by Kelly Kuhn and Seasons of the Storm by Elko Samano. Now this is the thing. Other people may like these because I didn't like them for very different reasons. This one is historical fiction. It's Sumerian culture, which I was so excited for because I love ancient civilization cultures and stuff, especially Sumerian. Sumerian is one of the base cultures in my mythology for the Phoenix in my books. So I was really hyped to read this. I just didn't connect with the writing at all. And I don't know what it is really about it. It just felt kind of stale and underdeveloped, which is really, really weird. But I was so looking forward to this, and I was really looking forward to going on with the sequel. And I really loved the cover, like, if you guys can see it. There it is. Look at that. That's really, really cool. I love the design, but it was just so disappointing. With Seasons of the Storm, this is supposed to be seasons personified. I just think this could have been done so much better. I didn't like this relationship that happens in it, the relationships especially that happen in it, because it's a kind of a love story between winter and spring, and they're always, you know, around killing each other. Well, spring is always killing winter, and summer kills spring, and blah, 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 blah. The cycle continues. But there was no real foundation in why they like each other, and I was really left kind of bleh with their romance because there was no indication of how this romance came to be. It just suddenly is. Same with these other characters that are in it. You're just like, oh, I guess they liked each other once and that's it. And I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand how Kronos, who is this main god that's keeping them all in this cycle, and it's kind of like Seasons living in a boarding school situation too, which I'm like, why? There was a lot about this that it just didn't connect. It didn't make sense to me, and I thought was just it just didn't hit it for me. Other people really like this one, but I had to suspend too much disbelief that it was no longer suspended, and I could not do it. So disappointing. So those are my two most disappointing books. These next ones are ones that I enjoyed. They weren't incredibly enthralling, but I did enjoy them. So the first one I have is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker, and I really thought I wasn't going to fully like this book when I was reading the beginnings part of it, because I thought it was just kind of, again, underdeveloped characters, but they developed, and I thought it was very interesting, especially in the end. Like, okay, it's hooked me enough that I do want the sequel. I do want to read it. So hopefully I can get my hands on the sequel. I don't own the sequel yet, which is called Steel Tide, I believe. And then there is a third book called Stormbreak, but we'll see how I feel about Steel Tide eventually. But we'll also see if I remember to read the sequel, because this may not have hooked me enough to actively go out and seek the book, but if the book falls into my hands, then I probably will read it. Seafire, it's not pirates. It's also, that was another weird thing about this book, is the world building. I was very confused because it's like futuristic piratey, but it's not, they're not pirates. They deal with pirates, but they are just a crew of all women. And you would think there'd be a lot more gay going on with that, but there really isn't. And them fighting against the father, who is this bad dude you don't even see. And there's a lot of trust issues and stuff, and they bring aboard one of the bullets, who is one of the bad guys, basically, and she learns to trust him, but it takes a very long time. It's very weird, and the world building itself was very confusing, but once you're just like, okay, whatever, this world exists this way, then you kind of get more into it. So if you're more into the seafaring books, then you might like this more than I did. I'm not a huge fan of those types, so that's why it's a genre I rarely read, but this was enough to go, okay, I will give the sequel a shot. Next up, I'm sad to say I was disappointed with this one a little bit. Not entirely. I do want to continue the sequel because I have been assured by she who recommended this to me that it's better, like that Lyriel is better, but that is Sabriel by Garth Nix. And, oh, I just noticed. Oh, okay. This cover, I just noticed something about it. I don't know if you guys can see. If I get in real close and it focuses, do you guys see the runes? There are like runes, or charter marks, I guess is what they would be called. But on the white, you don't see it unless you turn it to a certain light. That's clever. Okay. I like that. Sabriel. It's not Sabriel, it's Sabriel. I had to remind myself this because I keep saying Sabriel, but it's Sabriel. It's narrated by Tim Curry, which was a major plus. However, I just couldn't connect with this one, and I wasn't sure why I wasn't connecting. Maybe I should have read this physically to make more sense, because there was a lot of moments where I was in the story and then I like drifted, and then I was like, what the hell just happened? I'm confused. I feel like if I read this as like a young teen, I would have been super into it, but I'm not so into it right now. I also was very confused by the love element, because I'm like, there was no build up to that, really. There was no indication of it. So I was a little weirded out by that. And for the longest time, I kept thinking she was like 14 when really she's 18. And there was an overabundance of notes about her breasts. Garth Nix. There was like one chapter, he mentioned her breasts like 3 times in a row, and I'm like, why? We didn't need to know that. So, yeah. Very confused by that. But I'm still gonna try. I'm gonna try Lyriel and see where we go. Next up, we have Pride and Prejudice and Mistletoe by Melissa De La Cruz. This is a super short, fast read. You can read it in an hour or 2, and it's fun. It is a gender-bent Pride and Prejudice. So we follow the girl, Darcy Fitzwilliam, who is like a hedge fund manager, which given the situation with that right now and Reddit and stuff, I'm just kind of laughing knowing that she just lost all her money. But anyway, it's an interesting gender bent flip. I wasn't totally sold on a lot of elements with it. I did appreciate that her best friend, they were gay, and I did like that element to it. It was definitely brought on very fast, which is addressed in this, and I appreciated some of the things in here. I was conflicted by a few things here and there. I did not like the epilogue-y ending. I hated that part because Darcy spent so much time actively being like, I don't want kids, I don't want this stuff, and then there's a baby in the end, and I'm like, blah. But it's fine, whatever. It's a fun romp, so if you need a little fun Christmas-timey romp and a little bit of Pride and Prejudice sprinkled in there, this is fun. So it's a fun read. I appreciated it. Didn't love it, but I appreciated it. Remember how I said I wasn't going to spend too much time talking about all the books individually? Huh. That was funny. I promise I'm gonna go a little bit faster now because I've already warned myself. We have Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I didn't expect how dark this one was gonna get. I thought this was gonna be a fun little contemporary romance, and while it has those elements, it's a lot harder hitting than I thought it would be. So, warning of that. Now, there was controversy about this book because people have said that Rainbow Rowell made or developed the female character more than the male character, who is also half Korean. And I kind of disagree. I think Park is really well developed. I don't want to be the judge on that because I am, you know, white woman, but from people that I know who are half Asian, this felt believable, especially considering it is set in the 80s, where all of the elements that we now really closely look at in literature and in society itself were very different in the 80s. It was very different then, and I think she did a good job representing the era historically. It was historically accurate with that and the attitudes surrounding people, especially if you're like the sole person of color in a very white neighborhood. So I think it was well represented, but correct me if I'm wrong. You could point out some things that I didn't quite catch, and that's a total possibility. I definitely did not enjoy the ending though. I thought I was kind of mad about that ending. So anyway, moving on, we have Welcome to Nightvale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. Cranor? Not sure. Welcome to Nightvale, the podcast that we all know and loved in Tumblr in like 2011 or something. It has books, and this is not centered on the actual like main characters of the podcast, the voice of Nightvale. It's read by the voice of Nightvale, so I definitely appreciate that consistency. It's centered around different characters in this, and it was just so weird, but in a good way. This was how like satirical magical realism or sci-fi-ness should happen, and I thought it was very well done, very fun, and I'm really sad because I realized the sequel, It Devours, is not on audiobook. The other one is Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home. She's an audiobook, that one is, but not It Devours. So I want to get to the sequel. I don't know when I'm going to get to the sequel, hopefully soon though, because it was very fun and I enjoyed it. Next up we have Kill the Farm Boy by Delilah S. Dawson and Kevin Hearn. This one I was like, I liked it more than I didn't like it. There were a lot of weird elements. There was a lot of bathroom humor in this that I wasn't quite a fan of, but there were a lot of really funny topsy-turvy moments where it takes, you know, the main premise and turns it on its head. So I really liked who the actual chosen one is. I like that they continue this series, so I will be continuing with No Country for Old Gnomes and see that one. And they also have the Princess Beard. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't all the hype that I expected that I put on it, so it was a little disappointing that it wasn't as great as I thought it would be, but there were a lot of really funny moments that I'm like, this feels very Monty Python, Taika Waititi-esque. So if you like that kind of humorous stuff, check it out. Moving on to the books that I really, really enjoyed. These are kind of all 4-star books right here, so I'm going to quickly rapid fire them a bit. We have The Weight of Feathers by Anna Marie McLemore. The only thing that held this back is that it is technically a Romeo and Juliet retelling, which I cannot stand, but I definitely liked this. I liked the magical realism. I liked the mermaids versus fairies kind of thing going on. Not real mermaids and fairies, they're like sideshow acts, and I definitely appreciated it. I thought some of it was weird. I didn't quite grasp the original feud, but there's that. But again, Anna Marie McLemore, queen of magical realism. right there. Then we have Fate of Flames by Sarah Rothley. This is a superhero kind of, think Sailor Moon meets Pacific Rim. That's the best way to describe this book. And I was fully going in going, all right, this was a book written in what, 2015, 2016 or something? Yeah, 2016. It's a heyday of YA, paranormal romance kind of stuff. Where is this gonna go? But thoroughly enjoyed this. There were a couple elements that I was like, okay, but overall, really liked this. I liked how different all of the four effigies, which is what their superhero names are called. I liked that there was way more development into how this works, and I thought it was really great. This is really fun, and I think it's going to be a super underrated trilogy that I think more people should have hyped at the time. I didn't hear anything about this. I definitely want to read the rest of this. I'm very anxious to read the rest of it, so I'm hoping in TBR games that I'll be able to yoink them out. Then we have One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. Now, I went into this thinking, okay, everybody's hyped it, but it is like a mystery thriller YA, which normally is not my thing, but I really liked this. It had me very, very intrigued, and I was, you know, questioning what's going on. I did get the twist, though. I did predict that because I'm like, it has to be this way because it's not any of them. But it could be, but it's not probably. It's probably this and blah, 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 blah. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it. I thought I kind of wanted more for the ending, and I realized now in the sequel that it doesn't surround these characters, and I thought it would. It surrounds other characters that you meet in this book, but I kind of wanted to say more with these characters here. So, especially with Noah. I really wanted to see more with him. Very fun, well, not fun. It was a wild ride. I think the main aspect I didn't like of that is that it felt a little bit like a CW show where it's like, you know, all the deep, dark secrets of these teenage characters is very basic things like sleeping around and drinking and drugs and blah, 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 blah. There you go. The last one that was super good, not quite a 5-star, but good enough, was Internment by Samira Ahmed. This was actually like the first book that I read in January, and it's a speculative fiction with if the Muslim community was treated kind of like how Japanese were in internment camps and were made to separate from the rest of the world and be put in these camps and stuff. And it follows this main character here who was put in that camp and witnessing a lot of the injustices that are happening and just kind of this crazy thing that could easily have happened. Now I don't believe it as much now that we're out of certain people's rule of America. It's based a lot on actual things that are happening in the country today and what it would look like if it was targeted for the Muslim community. So it gets very real. There are deaths. The thing that I hated about this is how the ending happened, or what the ending did. I get it. I get why the author went that direction, but I was still hoping for a little bit of the, you know, feel good ending, but that's not what this book is about. This book is more about the realism in speculative fiction, if that makes any sense, but highly recommend. I think everybody should be reading that. My 3 favorite books of the month, which is very diverse because we have like an urban fantasy or a rural fantasy, if I could say that, a contemporary, and a kind of sci-fi, again, superheroes book. But let's talk about the contemporary first. Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is Renaissance fair romance, and I am here for it. It was a little bit deeper than you expect from a contemporary romance, and I really liked the development of both of the main characters. It wasn't just a one-sided thing, and I liked how their relationship developed. I really, really liked the entirety of the characters, and I really want to see like their relationship continue forward. I related very hard with Emily, who is our main girl in here, and I definitely felt a lot of connection with her. There is a sequel called Well Played, but it's going to go around different characters, but in the same town and everything, so we will be seeing more of them, I assume, in Well Played. I just need to get my hands on it because boy do I want to read it. Then we have Winterwood by Shea Earnshaw, the beautiful Owl Crate edition of this. Look at this baby, it's so pretty. And even under the cover, so beautiful. This took me for a ride. It's definitely like, this is a good seasonal read. If you're, you know, in the depth of winter and you want to read about being in the depth of winter, this is a book to read. Or if you're in summer and you want to read something that'll cool you down, this will cool you down. There's a lot of snow in this book. I really liked the twist. I didn't expect to like the twist as much as I did in this, but I really liked it. I liked our main character. I loved the witchy feel of it. It was just, the prose was so well done that I have no real complaints about this book, which is why I got 5 stars. So I highly recommend, if you want a witchy, wintry read this book. I'm so sorry that the light is blinding it out. There you go. Look at this baby. Look at this baby. And finally, the last book that I gave 5 stars to is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Marissa Meyer does it again. And again, it's narrated by Rebecca Soler. Marissa Meyer, her world building is just absolutely astounding, and I loved the characters in this. We have an anti-hero like character, or really a villain who's the main character but is kind of stuck in the hero's world, and it just, I loved everything about this. I also really love that the main, like, big man Mr. All-American superhero is gay. I love that. And they have their adopted son, who is the other one in here. I love the complications of both of these characters. I loved how flawed they both were, and I'm so excited to read the sequel. I went out and I got the 3rd book immediately because I'm like, I'm gonna read this whole series. I know I will. So I'm very, very excited about this. So if you love superheroes, if you love dystopian kind of stuff, and you love villainy stories, I highly recommend. Look at that! I couldn't shut up about books again. I need to stop making that promise in the beginning of the video where I say, I'm gonna be really quick about it. What did you guys read in January? Put them all down below, or make a video, and, you know, if you make a video, tag me in it, and I'll go watch your video, because I love hearing what other people are reading. I love adding to my infinite, I can't talk, my never-ending TBR. Because there's a lot. Let me know what you read. Let me know if you've read any of these books. What do you think of them? Or if you're going to read them, because they're really, really good. Recommend. Alright, thank you guys. Put them all down in the comments below on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter. And I'll see you next time, cuties. Bye! There's something in my eye again. I swear to God, this is gonna happen. Oh, I think I actually got it. It's gonna happen in every video. There's something in my eye, ruining my makeup. Excuse me. My God, I'm sneezing. Again. And this is why I took off lipstick.